Is 2023 going to be the year of the great NASDAQ comeback? Tough year for stock markets in 2022. So I thought, let's pick up on one market, look at it in a bit more depth and see where the opportunities might be, short, medium, and perhaps even a bit longer term. I'm David Jones. I've been running this YouTube channel for a few months now. We have so far just been focusing on live streams. So I do a regular live stream every Friday. I do midweek live streams as well. The next one I'm going to try out, I think I said in last week's live stream, I'm going to try out an evening live stream in January. So the next one is Tuesday night, tomorrow night at 7:30 UK time. If you're subscribed with the alarm bell notification thing pushed, you get a notification off YouTube when that live stream is about to start. But the other thing that I thought I'd do as part of this YouTube channel is at least once a week, have a look at a market in a bit more detail. And the market I've picked this week is the NASDAQ 100 index. We looked at it obviously in the live stream last Friday, and I thought it was worthy of a bit more exploration. So in this video, we'll talk a bit about some of the things that have been affecting the NASDAQ. Then we will jump on the platform, take a look at it in a bit more detail and see where the opportunities are. I do run a trading course that I've mentioned on the live streams. I've showed the numbers. We'll have a quick look at the results so far. To find out more about my trading course, if you go to my website, jonesthemarkets.com, there is a link down there in the description for this video, and you can find out more details there and get in touch with me via the website if you've got any questions. For those of you who are on the course, the gold trade that I put on Friday of last week, I mentioned it in the live stream as well. It came out of it overnight, so a good profit on that. But let's get into it and take a look at this NASDAQ in a bit more detail. So let's just recap. We know 2022 was a bad year for most stock markets. The NASDAQ was no exception. If we look at the NASDAQ from the close of 2021 to the close of 2022, the market was down almost 33%. So the NASDAQ lost a third of its value during 2022. And it's interesting at the moment because it's bubbling around a big level, but more about that in a second. So what had happened here? Well, clearly for global stock markets, there were the wider economic concerns. I mean, where'd you start? We had inflation concerns just over a year ago, and they, of course, just ramped up and got worse during the year with central banks very much, I think, on the back foot, trying to catch up and put a lid on inflation. Then, of course, we had the Russian invasion of Ukraine in the first quarter of 2022. I mean, clearly that pressurized all sorts of different markets. And, as 2022 ended, I think we had seen perhaps we're past the worst for inflation, but we still have the threat of higher interest rates in the months ahead. And that is, I think, something that is weighing on markets and just what sort of economic bounce back will we get. But for the NASDAQ in particular, I think, we saw the NASDAQ peak earlier than broader indices. That peaked in 2021, November 2021. And the concern here was that tech valuations had just been overblown and were far too over optimistic. So we saw the tech companies that make up the NASDAQ, the higher growth companies, take a bigger hit. So looking ahead to this year, I'm not going to do a year forecast for the NASDAQ where it's going to be on the 31st of December 2023, because I think they're a bit futile. But looking at most major analysts' forecast, still cautious coming into 2023. But the likes of UBS and Morgan Stanley are expecting a broader stock market recovery into the end of the year, into the second half of the year. We'll see how that plays out. But for me, the NASDAQ is interesting for a few reasons at the moment. And the big reason actually is where we're trading, or where we traded last week on the NASDAQ. If we're looking at a level that could be a floor under the market, something of a springboard to try and send this market into recovery, for me, the big zone to watch is sort of 10,400 to 11,000. I think that's an area I'm going to be keeping an eye on for the NASDAQ. But as usual, enough talk about levels and all that to put all of this into some context and put some color into these numbers. Let's jump on the chart and take a look at things in a bit more detail. So let's take a look at this NASDAQ. This is the NASDAQ 100 and why I think it's an interesting market at the moment and for the next few months or so. So just as a recap, so the market ended 2021 up here around 16,300. In October of last year, it traded as low as 10,430. And I think what's interesting, if I zoom it in here, is this has emerged as pretty good support over the last, what is it now, 2.5 months or so. So the market came back down to 10.6 early November. We saw this run up to 12.2. I think that was on inflation data in December when we saw indices spike up during the day, then give it up. And then traded back down end of December down to 10,670 or thereabouts. And again, last Friday, payrolls day, 10,670. So 10.4 to 10.7-ish is emerging as good support for the NASDAQ. So I suppose if you wanted to take a bit of an aggressive trade here, one idea, if you think that actually we have seen the worst for the NASDAQ and this year is going to be a year of recovery starting now, then one idea is to have your stop loss the other side of 10,400, the lows for the year, let's say, or the lows for last year, I should say. If I take this out, that what makes me think, actually, I want to be a little bit patient here. We do still have what has been pretty much a textbook downtrend. I've picked it up off the December 2021 highs. We've got lower highs, lower lows, all of that sort of stuff. So for me, when it comes to calling a medium turnaround for the NASDAQ, I'd probably want to be a little bit patient. I could say that perhaps you might even want to wait for it to break through 12.2, the market to take out those previous highs and take out the trend line that we saw in December. So for now, at least, I think it's an interesting market to watch. This level, this whole zone from 10.4 to 10.8 or thereabouts is really interesting because it has held the market up. I would still want to be a little bit patient about calling the turning point in the NASDAQ. We'll take a look at some downside targets in a second if we see these levels break. Before we do that, a quick update on my trading. So I mentioned in Friday's live stream that I've been long gold. I came out of it this morning. It ended up being a good trade. I trailed the stop up, so I came out of it on the 9th of Jan, which is today, the time of recording this video. Came out just after 9 a.m. this morning. It was £100 risk on the trade. The trade in the end made £254, so 2.5 times the risk. So it was a really good trade in the end, that one. So again, continues the profitability of this account. A quick look at that snapshot. So I've mentioned it before, but when I launched my shorter term trading course back in October, I said I was going to trade it with a £4,000 account for 3 months just to be open about trading, because I think plenty of people who are selling trading courses don't actually show you the real results. It's all a bit theoretical, and I'm really not a big fan. So I've been trading this account. This is the 3rd month now. That gold trade is not included. This is closed trades up to the 8th of Jan. I said on Friday in the live stream, very stonking performance in December. Perhaps a bit unrealistic, but in December, £973 worth of profit. So almost 25% return in December on up to the 8th of Jan, I should say, on the £4,000 account. I should say, of course, past performance does not guarantee future performance. And if I go back 90 days, that's the 90-day number. So that's back to the beginning of October. So over the 90 days to the 8th of Jan, it's up £1,700. 2/3 of trades have been winners, which is not bad at all in terms of a hit ratio. If you're going to be a sensible risk managing trader, but a great return over the last 90 days. And as I say, to find out more, go to the website. There's a few FAQs in there, a bit more about the performance. But if you go to my website, jonesthemarcus.com, you can see a bit more about how all those numbers were achieved. So back to the NASDAQ. Let's take this out a bit. This has been such a good floor. And for me, I think the risk is if we see this level taken out, 10,400, let's call it, the risk is perhaps for a much deeper sell-off. And what will we be looking at next? Well, I think for me, probably I'd be looking at the 9,500 area if we saw 10-4 broken. So perhaps another 10% slide lower. So it is going to be really interesting to see what happens, you know, and that 9.5-ish zone was sort of the highs as well before markets got really spooked about COVID and the coronavirus back in March 2020. So I think we could see quite a knee-jerk sell-off. But let's be optimistic. For now, at least, that level is holding. Looking at the RSI down here, we have gone oversold end of December. Did it push lower? Let me have a look at that. So we went in December, it went as low as 10,667. 10,674, so it didn't quite take that low out. So we don't really have like a bullish divergence thing going on from an RSI point of view, but we are oversold down here. So perhaps if we're looking to at least play the range, you know, a medium-term target or short to medium target from here could be for a push back up to these old highs from December around the 12,000 levels. So for me, big picture view, trend is still down on the NASDAQ 100, so I'm quite relaxed about trying to buy into a recovery. However, we have seen this solid support emerge over the last few months. So for me, it's an interesting one to look at in terms of, even though we're going against the trend by being a buyer down here, we've got a really good reference point when it comes to stop losses and all of that. So that's it. That's it for the first analysis video on the channel. Join me on Tuesday night if you can for the live stream. If you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Helps the YouTube algorithms somehow. To find out more about the training course, go to my website, jonesthemarkets.com. Any questions, drop me an email. But for now, that's it. Good luck with your trading.